Have you ever been completely baffled by an INTJ's hobbies? Or, if you're an INTJ, have you ever tried to explain a pastime that seems perfectly logical to you, only to be met with confused stares? What is it that drives these strategic, analytical masterminds to pour their time and brain power into pursuits that most people would just call weird? The INTJ, or the architect, is one of the rarest and most strategically gifted of the 16 personality types. Their minds are like intricate labyrinths, always seeking patterns, building theories, and designing complex systems. So it only makes sense that their hobbies would be just as complex. These aren't just pastimes. They're extensions of who they are. They're training grounds and personal labs where the INTJ's powerful mind can stretch, explore, and find a unique kind of satisfaction. Today, we're digging into the enigmatic world of the INTJ. We'll break down 8 seemingly bizarre hobbies that capture their interest. But we won't just stop at what they are. We're going to get into the why, the deep psychological drivers that make these activities so compelling and reveal the connections between these pastimes and the core functions of the INTJ mind. This isn't just a list. It's a blueprint for what makes the architect tick. Let's start with something that brings to mind circus acts, action heroes, or maybe even shadowy assassins: knife throwing. On the surface, it looks aggressive, maybe even a little reckless. But for an INTJ, this isn't about aggression or mindless danger. It's a perfect storm of physics, discipline, and meditative focus. A fascinating problem to be solved with both mind and body. The real appeal for the INTJ is the challenge and the path to total mastery. They have an innate need to be competent. They don't just want to be good at something. They want to understand it so completely that excellence becomes second nature. Knife throwing is a discipline full of variables: the weight and balance of the knife, the exact distance to the target, the biomechanics of the throw. Each toss is an experiment, a new data point. An INTJ won't just throw a knife 1,000 times and hope for the best. They'll analyze every single attempt. Was the rotation off by a quarter turn? Was the release a millisecond too late? They'll break the process down, systematically tweak each variable, and meticulously track the results. This cycle of hypothesis, testing, and refinement is the native language of the INTJ mind. Then there's the element of calculated risk. INTJ aren't typically adrenaline junkies looking for chaos. They're drawn to controlled risk. The danger of knife throwing provides a real consequence for failure, which demands a state of hyper-focus. This isn't the chaotic risk of a roller coaster. It's the focused risk of a surgeon with a scalpel. The thrill comes not from the danger itself, but from their ability to negate that danger through pure skill and concentration. Every time the knife hits the bullseye with a satisfying thud, it's a victory of order over chaos, a powerful confirmation of their ability to impose their will on the physical world. Plus, it's a solo act. This is critical for an introvert who finds constant social interaction draining. The INTJ can retreat to their own space, free from the pressure of conversation. In that solitude, their mind can enter a flow state. The world melts away, and all that exists is them, the knife, and the target. This isn't emptiness. It's a state of profound mental clarity, a kind of active meditation. For a mind that's always on, this singular focus is deeply restorative. If knife throwing raised an eyebrow, our next hobby might cause a full-on double take: whipcracking. Popularized by icons like Indiana Jones and Zorro, it seems more like a theatrical stunt than a serious hobby. It's loud, flashy, and seems pretty useless in the modern world. So why would a pragmatic, efficiency-focused INTJ get into it? The answer is a fascinating mix of physics, control, and history. At its core, whipcracking is an exercise in supreme precision. That crack you hear isn't leather hitting leather. It's a miniature sonic boom. The tip of the whip, called the cracker, actually breaks the sound barrier. An INTJ isn't just making a loud noise. They're captivated by the science. They love that a fluid motion of their own body can create an energy wave that accelerates a tiny point to at least 767 miles per hour, and often much faster. Mastering this requires an intuitive grasp of physics that is deeply appealing. They'll research different types of whips, study their tapered designs, and practice for hours just to perfect the subtle wrist flick that makes the whip an extension of their will. This hobby also provides a powerful sensory experience that engages the INTJ's often overlooked inferior function, extroverted sensing, SE. INTJs live mostly in their heads, but whipcracking yanks them into the present moment. The sharp, undeniable crack is immediate, visceral feedback. You either made a sonic boom, or you didn't. This clear cause and effect is deeply satisfying to a logical mind and provides a grounding counterpoint to their usual cerebral life. And for many INTJ, it's not just about the physics, it's about the history. They aren't just cracking a whip, they're engaging with a piece of culture. They'll dive into its origins, from its use by Australian stockmen to its evolution as a performance art. This intellectual angle elevates the activity from a simple physical skill to a subject of academic curiosity. For the INTJ, whipcracking isn't a party trick. It's a multi-layered discipline combining physics, history, and kinesthetic mastery. While fencing is a well-known Olympic sport, the version that often grabs an INTJ's attention is a much more niche and intellectually demanding one: historical European martial arts, or HEMA. This isn't the modern sport of flicking electronic scoring tips. HEMA is the academic and martial reconstruction of fighting systems from the Middle Ages and Renaissance. Practitioners study dense, often cryptic historical manuals and learn to fight with faithful replicas of longswords, rapiers, and sabers. For an INTJ, this is the ultimate fusion of academic research, strategic thinking, and physical skill. What really hooks the INTJ is the incredible strategic depth. HEMA is often called physical chess, an analogy tailor-made for the INTJ mind. Every duel is a high-speed, high-stakes puzzle. They don't just learn the moves, they learn the theory behind the moves. They study concepts like timing, distance, and feinting as practical tools. Reading an opponent, baiting them into a mistake, and exploiting that opening is a physical manifestation of the strategic planning that goes on in their head all day long. It's a field in constant evolution too, with scholars and practitioners always debating the best interpretations of these ancient texts. HEMA also demands a harmony between mind and body that INTJ find incredibly compelling. You can't just think your way to victory. You need the physical conditioning and muscle memory to execute your plan. But brute force isn't enough either. A less athletic but more strategic fighter can easily win. The INTJ will approach their training with systematic precision, drilling footwork, practicing cuts, and then sparring to test their theories against a live, unpredictable opponent. Finally, the HEMA community offers the perfect social outlet for an INTJ. It's not about small talk. It's about a shared, deep, intellectual passion. Conversations are about the subtle differences between German and Italian sword techniques or the biomechanics of a proper thrust. This is a community of fellow nerds where the INTJ is right at home, able to connect with others through intellectual curiosity and a mutual respect for skill. At first, Listing puzzles and board games as a weird hobby for an INTJ might seem odd. But the difference is in the intensity. For an INTJ, a puzzle or a complex board game isn't a casual way to kill time. It's a mental gymnasium, a battlefield of pure logic. The weirdness comes from the sheer seriousness they bring to what others see as a lighthearted diversion. Of course, it all comes down to the mental workout. The INTJ's mind is a problem-solving engine, and if it's not given a worthy problem, it gets restless. A 5,000-piece, solid-color jigsaw puzzle or a strategic board game with a 100-page rulebook isn't frustrating. It's a delightful challenge. These games present a closed system with clear rules and a definite solution, a refreshing change from the messy, illogical nature of the real world. This directly engages the INTJ's dominant function, Introverted Intuition, NI, which is basically their brain's pattern-finding superpower. When an INTJ looks at a puzzle, their mind is subconsciously processing shapes and patterns, making intuitive leaps. When playing a complex board game like Gloomhaven, their NI is constantly running simulations, predicting opponents' moves, and formulating a long-term strategy that might look bizarre to others but culminates in a brilliant victory. These hobbies also offer a flexible social life. A huge puzzle can be a profoundly solitary project, allowing them to recharge. On the other hand, a board game night with a small group of sharp friends is the perfect social event. The interaction is focused, strategic, and goal-oriented. You're judged not on your social grace, but on the quality of your thinking, an environment where an INTJ can truly shine. The perfect example isn't an INTJ playing Monopoly. It's the INTJ who has built custom foam core inserts for their board game boxes to optimize setup time. It's the INTJ with a spreadsheet analyzing dice roll probabilities. It's the INTJ who, after the game, sends a follow-up email with a detailed post-game analysis, complete with graphs outlining strategic errors made by each player, including themselves. For an INTJ, fun and rigorous mental exertion are often the exact same thing. When you imagine an INTJ, you probably don't picture them with dirt under their fingernails. And yet, gardening is a surprisingly common and fulfilling hobby for them. For the architect, a garden isn't just a bunch of plants. It's a complex, long-term project in systems management, a living laboratory, and a personal sanctuary. Think of a garden as a giant living system. That's the hook for an INTJ. They approach a garden plot the same way they design a business plan. They research soil pH, companion planting, sun exposure, and water needs. They'll draw up detailed schematics for the layout to maximize efficiency, and then create schedules for planting, fertilizing, and harvesting. The garden becomes a tangible manifestation of their ability to create order and productivity out of a patch of chaos. This hobby also offers a connection to nature, but in a very INTJ way. It's an intellectual connection, not just a spiritual one. They are fascinated by the underlying systems of the natural world. Gardening is a hands-on way to engage with botany, ecology, and chemistry. Why are the squash leaves turning yellow? Is an early frost coming? These aren't frustrating setbacks. They're puzzles to be solved through research and logic. Gardening also offers a sanctuary for solitude. The act of weeding or pruning can be meditative, allowing the INTJ's analytical mind to quiet down while their intuition works in the background, making new connections. The garden is a private space where they are in complete control, and its success rests almost entirely on their own knowledge and effort. A deeply rewarding prospect. So the next time you see an INTJ's garden, look closer. You might notice the plants are arranged for symbiotic relationships, or a custom-built irrigation system they programmed themselves. And if you ask about their beautiful roses, be prepared for a 10-minute lecture on the pros and cons of different rootstocks and their integrated pest management strategy. Photography is an art form for millions, but when an INTJ picks up a camera, their approach is fundamentally different. They usually aren't taking casual snapshots. For them, photography is a powerful tool for analysis, a medium for expressing complex ideas, and a technical discipline to be mastered. For the INTJ, it's the perfect blend of art and science. A camera is a piece of technology, and they are fascinated by mastering that technology. They won't just leave the camera on auto, they will devour the manual. They'll learn the intricate dance between aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. They'll research the physics of different lenses and the algorithms in post-processing software. This technical side provides the intellectual challenge they crave, but it's always in service of a creative goal, translating the abstract vision in their mind into a tangible image. Photography is also the ideal activity for a detached observer, which is an INTJ's natural state. With a camera, they have a license to stand back, watch, and analyze without having to participate directly. They aren't just looking. They are deconstructing the scene, analyzing the lines, shapes, and textures. They're drawn to things like architectural photography for its clean geometry, or macro photography for its hidden details. The camera becomes a way to frame the chaotic world into orderly, understandable compositions. Finally, photography allows the INTJ to communicate their unique perspective. A photo of a dead tree might be a commentary on the passage of time. A picture of a crowded subway could be a study in urban alienation. Since they can struggle to express these nuanced ideas with words, a powerful image becomes their preferred method of communication. The editing process is just as important, as they meticulously adjust every detail to ensure the final image perfectly conveys their intended idea. Imagine an INTJ spending an entire afternoon trying to capture a single photo of a spider's web. They have their camera on a tripod, a specialized macro lens attached, and are waiting for the light to hit at the perfect angle. To an outsider, it's an absurd amount of effort. To the INTJ, it's a successful mission to capture and communicate the hidden, intricate geometry of the natural world. When people hear Dungeons and Dragons, they might think of kids in a basement. But for an INTJ, tactical tabletop role-playing games, TTRPGs, are something far more sophisticated. They are complex simulations that demand high-level strategic thinking, long-range planning, and creative problem-solving. This isn't just about pretending to be an elf, it's about optimizing a complex system. What makes these games irresistible to an INTJ is the strategy. A game like D&D is, at its core, a massive system of rules, and INTJ love to understand and master systems. They're drawn to character optimization, or min-maxing, where they analyze the game's mechanics to create the most efficient and powerful character possible. They will spend hours poring over rulebooks, cross-referencing spells, and creating spreadsheets to calculate damage per round. Combat isn't just rolling dice, it's a tactical puzzle, and the INTJ is the general commanding the army. These games also provide a structured outlet for the INTJ's powerful imagination. It's not just daydreaming, it's world-building with a purpose. This is where the architect truly gets to build. If the INTJ is the dungeon master, they will construct entire worlds with complex political systems, interwoven faction conflicts, and internally consistent magic systems. They get immense satisfaction from building a dynamic world and seeing how players interact with it. Perhaps most importantly, TTRPGs offer a form of social interaction that's perfectly suited to the INTJ. It's a structured, goal-oriented gathering where you work together to solve a problem. The game's rules provide a clear framework, reducing social anxiety. It allows the INTJ to be their analytical, strategic self without being judged as cold or weird. In this context, pointing out a logical flaw in a plan isn't criticism. It's a valuable contribution. Our final weird hobby is perhaps the most quintessentially INTJ of all: collecting. But we're not talking about stamps or coins. The INTJ is a collector of the obscure, the esoteric, and the useless. This could be a physical collection of vintage medical equipment or rare books on cryptography. More often, it's a vast and meticulously organized mental collection of what others would call useless knowledge. The driving force is an insatiable curiosity. For an INTJ, no knowledge is truly useless. Every fact is a potential piece of a larger puzzle. They are information sponges, and their mind is constantly working to connect these disparate facts into a grand, unified theory of, well, everything. Learning the complete taxonomy of deep-sea isopods isn't a waste of time. It's adding more data to their internal model of the world. The act of collecting, whether physical or mental, is also an exercise in system building. An INTJ doesn't just accumulate things. They curate and categorize them into a personal database. If they collect vintage slide rules, they'll have them organized by manufacturer, date, material, and function. This process of creating order out of a specialized subset of chaos is deeply satisfying. The collection itself becomes a project to be refined over a lifetime. This hobby provides a profound sense of self-defined accomplishment. In a world that often measures success externally, the INTJ's collection is a tangible representation of their inner world and their personal quest for knowledge. It's a domain where they are the undisputed expert. Imagine you're at an INTJ's home and comment on a strange-looking book. Their eyes light up. "Ah, that," they say, "is a facsimile of the Voynich manuscript. It's a 15th century codex written in a code that has never been deciphered." They then spend the next half hour explaining the leading theories on its origin and the statistical analysis of its text. They haven't solved the mystery, but they've collected the problem itself. That, for an INTJ, is the essence of a worthwhile collection. So from knife-throwing to collecting undecipherable texts, the weird hobbies of an INTJ aren't so weird after all. They are logical extensions of their core personality. Each of these pastimes is a carefully chosen arena where an INTJ can challenge their strategic mind, find sanctuary, and understand and organize a small piece of the universe. These hobbies are where their relentless drive for competence and love of complex systems can find a home. What seems like a bizarre interest to the outside world is, to the INTJ, simply a perfect problem waiting to be solved. Now we want to hear from you. If you're an INTJ, did we get it right? Did we miss any of your own wonderfully weird hobbies? Share your unique interests and why you love them in the comments below. We read every single one. And if you enjoyed this look into the mastermind's psyche, please give this video a like and subscribe for more in-depth analyses. Thanks for watching.